Welcome into another edition of the Water Cooler Podcast presented by Skol Marketing. I'm Hunter here on behalf of Skol Marketing, and with me are my two trusty colleagues and co-hosts. We have Mr. Abe Fortier.
Hello.
And Drew Coolum.
Howdy.
Today we're going to dive into the world of nostalgia marketing. It's going to be a good one. Be sure to like, subscribe, and stick around for this enticing conversation revolving around nostalgia. We might just tug at your heartstrings. So today we are talking about the role of nostalgia in marketing. It seems like around every corner there is some brand trying to make a statement, trying to bring out a throwback element, trying to pull at your heartstrings with things that remind you of simpler times. Nostalgia is a huge factor in marketing, particularly towards the millennial generation and Gen Z generation, which we, of course, are a part of. Before we dive into our discussion, guys, I do have a top 5 list for you.
Whoa.
So this is just my personal top 5, straight from my dome. I came up with my personal top 5 examples of nostalgia marketing. Again, this is just me. Number 1. Revenge of the Sith 20-year re-release.
It's a big one.
This movie hit me at the perfect time as a kid, and seeing it again in theaters in my 20s was a great experience. I think a lot of people felt that way as well, getting to not only have the experience of seeing a Star Wars movie in theaters, but for people our age, that movie was so pivotal on so many levels. Not only was it an enjoyable film with a great story arc, but you got all the fast food promotions, all the toys, everything that came with it. It was just a staple of mid-2000s culture. So the re-release of Revenge of the Sith is my number 1 example of nostalgia marketing. Number 2, I love the sports throwback aesthetics. So locally here, we had 2 teams, the Wild and Timberwolves, but I'm going to focus on the Timberwolves specifically because they've done a whole brand refresh with their throwback uniforms, bringing out the trees, reliving the glory days of the Kevin Garnett era.
Those trees.
They're so great. They're not only just a great look, but they invoke this memory that brings you back to what their branding looked like at the peak of their franchise in the early 2000s. So Timberwolves Trees uniforms are going to be my number 2. Number 3, I have the GameStop Midnight Release. They brought this back this past November for Black Ops 7. It was a super cool event that they did. I don't believe every GameStop got involved, but many across the country did, where they brought back their old tactic of having a midnight release for a Call of Duty game. They turned it into a party. People would come out. They would have Xboxes set up. You could run 1v1s on Rust or whatever,
Really?
whatever
didn't even hear
the new
about
map was. Yeah. So that was a really cool element of kind of pulling on nostalgia and giving people an experience from GameStop, that midnight release.
Did you go to the shop at midnight?
I did not. I took a break from COD this year. I actually
Yeah.
didn't purchase Black Ops 7.
RIP that franchise.
Yeah, I think the nostalgia hasn't really worked on me per se, but the concept of doing a midnight release is something that I hold near and dear because I did go to them back in the day for both Call of Duty and Madden, and it was such a great experience. And I think it just shows that GameStop is in touch with their audience, and they wanted to give people this opportunity to gather and showcase their new product, but also just give people a reason to remember why they fell in love with gaming in the first place and the community with it. Number 4, I have the return of Grimace. It was 2 summers ago that Grimace was everywhere, guys. They had the Grimace shake. It was purple. I don't remember what flavor it was, but I'm sure it was sugary and delicious.
It was purple flavored.
It was purple flavored. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but yeah. So Grimace coming back, McDonald's doing this whole campaign, bringing back one of their iconic characters that people of our generation kind of knew as one of the heroes, if you will. Also, fun fact, I believe Grimace is supposed to be a taste bud. I don't know if you guys know.
I remember you spilling that fact a while ago.
He's an interesting character. Maybe my love of the color purple had something to do with that. But Grimace returning, I thought was a great campaign. It got people excited about McDonald's. And with McDonald's being such a behemoth in the world, it's a really cool idea to kind of pull on that nostalgia string and get people interested in coming back and trying something new off of their long, trusty menu. Last one is a new one that I became aware of a few months ago, and I loved it. It is those mini Kodak camera charms.
Yeah, I bought one.
Yeah.
The Charmeras.
Yeah, the Charmera.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool idea. In such a digital focused world, being able to kind of have that little disposable camera at your fingertips is such a cool idea. It kind of not only has a retro feel to the product itself, but also kind of takes you back to when capturing photos was you had to put more effort into it, right? Like you couldn't just pull out your phone and you had access to these amazing pictures. You kind of had to make an effort to go out of your way and do that. And I think that product is absolutely brilliant. Obviously, like the collector's aspect of it as well, the mystery packs and whatnot. And then one final honorable mention. I gave my top 5. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. But I would also say the Barbie movie was an amazing example of nostalgia marketing. Being a boy, Barbie wasn't necessarily my favorite toy as a kid, but I feel like the Barbie movie represented so much more than the product of Barbie itself. It's basically living out your childhood dreams, staying true to yourself. Yeah, right. Another callback to Marty. But that movie was just such a beautiful representation of like the role that our childhood infatuations with toys kind of plays into our lives and helps shape us. I loved the movie. It was great. Even if I didn't play with Barbies as a kid, it was awesome. And I think it's one of the greatest examples of nostalgia marketing because it was a smash hit and everybody loved that movie. I want to know, like, obviously I just rattled off my top 5. Is there any examples that you guys have in mind of nostalgia marketing, or do you want to hit on one of the ones that I just brought up?
Well, I did want to give a quick disclaimer to anyone who buys the Charmera that the quality is really, really bad. But that's what you should expect.
It's about the experience, man.
It is about the experience, and I didn't buy it for the quality. I bought it for the novelty, and I bought it for the nostalgia, and I really like the aesthetic. Sadly, I got my least favorite one, and I was really looking forward, or I was really trying to get the transparent one, which is a really cool collector's item. But I thought that was a really good example. Trying to think. The ones that I focused on were a lot of the big game franchises are bringing out new remastered versions of their games, which I think is like super awesome because you get to relive that same experience, that same familiar, comfortable experience, but in almost a more mature sense.
I'm guessing you're thinking of Oblivion, right?
Oblivion was the one that I purchased earlier last year that kind of kickstarted my infatuation or re-infatuation of like wanting to play all these old games again. And I really, really enjoyed it. Like it did bring me back to when I would just sit on the couch with friends, blankets and popcorn and all that jazz when we were doing all those couch co-op stuff. And just like the storytelling, having that come back in my life, it really invoked these emotions that I haven't felt in a long time, which I think is the beauty of it. And I did just start playing Fallout 4 again. I actually had never played Fallout before, but coming late to the game, I think for this remaster. Well, no, it wasn't remastered. I'm thinking of the new one that they are going to be remastering, Fallout 3.
Yeah,
so
there's also like a next-gen update or whatever for Fallout 4. Sure. So it is kind of a newer version. But.
Yeah, but I think just the principle behind, remastering some of these old games that were iconic in our childhood with, maybe some updated graphics or new features, things like that, I think is an interesting way to pull back that old audience and get them to relive those emotions that were so powerful to them and those emotions that shaped their adulthood.
It's interesting too because they're getting you to pay for a 20-year-old game that you probably already own, right? That not only speaks to the quality of the product itself and the excitement that they can drum up, but it showcases like how powerful nostalgia really is. I personally have never played Oblivion, but I understand its cultural relevance and the draw to want to experience that again through your adult eyes, right?
Right.
And yeah, I just think that really hammers down kind of the point of nostalgia in marketing and just like product development as a whole. Because, it kind of goes back to that old saying, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like, they had a really good formula back in 2006 or whenever that came out, and they're able to re-release it 20 years later and still probably make a fortune on that game. So I think that just goes to show how powerful a tool nostalgia really is.
For me, I think a few examples that come to my head about like nostalgia marketing, I think of like streaming services and the amount of like old TV shows being remade, old movies being remade, TV shows where they get the original cast to come back and like film one extra season, or like they'll do like reunion shows. I know they did like a Friends reunion show. I just saw they did like an Everybody Loves Raymond reunion show. I know for The Office, back in the day when they had to release shows on live television, they had to like fit it into a time crunch. So they had to like shorten the episodes. But now they've like gone back and released extended versions of Office episodes where instead of a 20-minute episode, you get a 35-minute episode of extra jokes.
Yeah, the Superfan episodes, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what that's called?
Superfan episodes. So I think streaming services are just like a huge proponent of using nostalgia to get you to come back to their services and watch content.
I'm glad you brought up streaming services, because I think one of the great examples of kind of like this earned nostalgia is Stranger Things, right? Stranger Things, of course, takes place in the 80s. You get the retro music, you get the 80s aesthetics inside the homes, you get the throwback soda cans, all that stuff. And it's naturally baked into the world. And I feel like that is a really effective way when you have not only an original smash hit story, but to Abe's point, I think that is almost a little bit more effective than kind of like a lazy reboot sometimes, I think of like Fuller House or That 90s Show, where they're kind of just shoving that down your throat because they know you'll get it. They'll know you'll watch it because you have these fond memories. And that's where I think the line of nostalgia marketing is very important to draw, because with Stranger Things, this, like I said, is a completely original story, and the product itself speaks for itself. Whereas, kind of bringing back those remakes isn't always the most effective way. So I think nostalgia itself plays a big role, but also there has to be something quality behind it, right? Like if Revenge of the Sith was a bad movie, I would have no interest in going to see it again. But because I have not only great memories of it, but it is actually a great product, that coupled with the nostalgia element really helps it take off, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just going to say, I think there's a fine line between it being a cash grab versus it being quality. And I think a lot of it is about, I think, people's intentions behind the nostalgia.
Do you guys think that our listeners think we're anti-capitalist the way we always talk about cash grab?
It's always cash grab. I mean, well, you have to think, just in human nature, people are trying to make the biggest buck.
I mean, we are also talking about media and marketing is just a tool to make money. Like that's
cash grab.
Yeah, I mean, that's like why you market is to make money. So, I mean,
but you got to do it in the right way. You got to make it digestible. You got to make it feel authentic. And I mean, that's the way that you should take it. Not like trying to manipulate people, because that's not great. No, I think Stranger Things honestly played such a pivotal role in even just reviving this movement of nostalgia. Especially Joe Keery. I think because he was like the pretty boy or whatever that everyone fell in love with. He had the charisma. He had the looks,
the heartthrob,
the heartthrob, and he brought a lot of like the fashion trends and even just the mannerisms. I feel like have kind of repeated, and you think that, or it's known that history repeats itself organically. Like we see a lot of the same trends, a lot of like, especially with fashion, I would say. Repeats organically, but I do think that there are these like silent catalysts that happen, and this in this day and age, I feel like Stranger Things was that catalyst. because everyone, I mean, it was that like sort of monoculture mass adopted moment, or like everyone was watching it.
Yeah.
Right. It felt like
Broke barriers.
Yeah, it broke barriers. Like we returned back to that day and age where, you know, everyone was on the same timeline, everyone had the same sort of stuff. And now it's, if, you know, like sharing the sentiments from our last episode, that things feel like more personalized, it's more siloed. I think Stranger Things really like brought everyone together again. And Joe Keery, I feel like, is very emblematic of that. And he even took that nostalgia and brought it to the next level, releasing the Crux Deluxe, which you put me onto, his album for Joe. Is it Joe? Do you say Joe? Joe? Because his name is Joe. I mean, it makes sense. Do you know okay, do you know the origin of that?
I do, and I forgot, so.
Okay, well, we'll have to research that. But even the music that he put out after his role in Stranger Things, I felt like kept that nostalgia alive, because every song on that album, I feel like, pulls from a different genre or different sound or feeling that was a staple of, you know, the mid to late 1900s. I want to give a challenge to the viewers, which is listen to Carry the Name and tell me it doesn't sound like Sgt. Pepper's Beatles or Sgt. Pepper's era Beatles, and then listen to Grime of the World and tell me it doesn't sound like a cover of AC/DC. And then listen to the rest of the album and try to draw other connections, because it is crazy. Like, fundamentally, they sound very similar to things that existed back in the day. So I just want to give a shout out to Joe Keery for, you know, reviving this movement. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. We love you, Joe.
Drew, I'm really glad you mentioned the term monoculture, because I feel like in an era where monoculture is disappearing, you know, you could consider Stranger Things a part of monoculture, but otherwise, what do we have in America for monoculture? The NFL and Taylor Swift? I mean, that's pretty much what we have. And the whole concept behind a water cooler conversation is that everyone is in tune with the same thing. Everyone watched the same show last night. Everyone saw the game last night. When there were fewer options, monoculture was more present. And that is sort of like the crux of sort of the idea behind this podcast, is that
Crux.
Yeah, well, didn't even try to do that.
It's the Leonardo DiCaprio movie from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right.
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
But yeah, I just think that that's a great term to use when it comes to looking at some of these things. And when culture was more of a monoculture, the way we reacted to it was so different than the way we do now, because the three of us could have a similar interest, but we all consume different areas, different niches of that interest where we might not even overlap at any point. And that's where I think that nostalgia kind of ties us in, because we all kind of shared that experience at that time. And now we get to look through it of the lens of us in our late 20s. And it's just completely different. I also wanted to hit on fashion. I'm very glad you mentioned that, because there's a few brands that I feel like in the last 10 or so years have had sort of a revival. Fashion is, of course, cyclical, right? I feel like when I was in college around 2019, 2020, there was this revolution of 90s fashion where people would wear light wash jeans and chunky white Fila sneakers. That had its moment. And as time progresses in the last couple years, it seems like we're almost moving more towards 2000s fashion, where baggy pants are coming back, baggy clothes. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I got you there.
That was really hard. I think I pulled something.
There's the company Jinko, who made the big baggy jeans back in the 2000s and late 90s. That's a company that was more or less kind of extinct for a while, and now they're becoming more relevant. They're doing promotions to give away. They did one last year that was called like the mega jeans, just the biggest, baggiest jeans possible, because they know that people have these warm memories of that time when that was key in fashion. They know that they can put out that product again, and they know that people will buy it. So this nostalgia goes, it knows no bounds, really. It touches fashion, music, popular culture. Everything is affected by nostalgia. And it seems to be the driving force of especially millennials and Gen Z when it comes to purchasing and, how we interact with the economy essentially.
Yeah, I really fell hard for some nostalgia marketing related to Stranger Things and clothing, where I think it was Converse released like 2 pairs of Stranger Things season 5, like retro Converse sneakers.
The Underworld ones?
Yeah.
Those were sick
And they
as
were
hell. You got
so
them? You have them?
no.
Oh, I was like, oh my God.
I would have if they didn't sell out right away, but I wanted these shoes so bad. They were like so retro looking, so like 80s looking, and then also like subtly Stranger Things themed. I fell for it hard and really wish I had those.
I feel like nostalgia actually increases the price tag on a lot of things too. Like you mentioned Jinko jeans. They're kind of luxury, They're
like $200, yeah.
Even more. I thought they were like close to 300. And the same thing with the Converse, like those sold out immediately because people had that sort of draw to them being nostalgic, being obviously exclusive to Stranger Things and that being a huge title. But I feel like when people do nostalgia right, it actually makes their brand more expensive, or more, maybe expensive isn't the right word, but more desired.
Exclusive. Because they can make it exclusive, and they know if they make it exclusive. I mean, because, again, those shoes sold out.
Yeah.
And they'll probably never make them again.
Right.
And I'll never be happy.
It's like the Marty Supreme jackets.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Star Wars as an example here, because I think Star Wars is like the perfect example for people our age when it comes to nostalgia. And I want to know your guys' opinion on if these tactics would work today. So let's say there's a new movie coming out, a new Star Wars movie. If this was 2005, Revenge of the Sith era, there would be fast food collabs, there would be Happy Meal toys, there would be unlimited action figures, there would be t-shirts, there would be midnight screenings of these movies. And these things have come back in little bits and pieces. But do you think that sort of campaign rollout would be as effective today? Or do we have to kind of seek more modern channels, utilizing social media, influencers? Where do you think that sort of distinction is drawn? And do you think that the 2000 style of marketing rollout for these big we'll use film as an example, do you think that could work today?
I'm going to give a cop-out answer and say you need both. Like, okay.
Porque no los dos.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we saw that kind of succeed with Marty Supreme. If you want to see that episode, check it out in the link when we talk about their marketing rollout. But we saw some of that more underground, deep cut, tangible sort of stuff that you could get in store in person. And we saw that succeed, but they also leveraged those modern channels, social media, to their advantage, like injecting it with all these different motifs and things that were repeatable that people could repost and share and, so I think that if you strictly did nostalgia marketing today and were kind of leaning into the toys and the meals and all that stuff, you probably wouldn't see as much of a result if you're not doing anything on social media. But if you are talking about that and sharing, like, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is the campaign that we're running, check it out in person, then I feel like that could work a little bit better. But you need that modern channel to actually be the catalyst to getting people out to interact with those other things. Otherwise, they're probably never going to find it. Or they could find it, through word of mouth, but that's not as effective nowadays as just like how fast information can be disseminated through social channels. So yeah, I think you need both.
So like if Revenge of the Sith came out today, Hayden Christensen would be going out on like Theo Vaughn's podcast.
Yeah, probably.
That sort of thing.
Maybe.
Hey man, you killed them younglings.
I think, I don't know.
I mean, we have a new Star Wars movie coming out in May, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. If you guys knew that.
I did know that. Yeah.
The first trailer didn't release until like yesterday. I mean, they had like that Super Bowl trailer, and then so I think it'll be interesting to see what that movie does, because I'm getting the vibe that they don't have faith in it performing well in the box office. So,
Really?
yeah.
The show is so popular, though.
Yeah. But I think the back end of the show has been really poorly received. So I think, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much money they put into the marketing of that movie, because we're, I don't know, only a couple months out and there hasn't been a ton. And yeah, you'd think they'd be pushing tons of stuff. I mean, it's a little baby Yoda. They can.
Yeah, you can do
Push-
a lot with
you
He's
that.
like the
do a lot
cutest
with
guy of
that,
all
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Get the kids to have the swirly eyes to the toys.
Drew, you have a kid. Do
Yes,
kids?
I do.
Do kids still play with toys? Like, do you think it makes sense for a big franchise to come out with, new action figures? Like, more so than just like the collectible aspect of it, right? Like, if there's an action figure that drops, people might want to get it because, it could have some value down the road. But like, I remember being a kid when Star Wars was coming out, and we'd go to Target and I would try to find, the action figure of the character I liked, whether that be Count Dooku or General Grievous, whoever. Like, is that still something that parents experience with their kids? Like, are they drawn to these franchises in that sort of way?
Yeah. I mean, Rowan is 3.5, so he's got a long ways to go, but he's pretty sophisticated for a little boy. And I will say he's big into Paw Patrol. Surprise, surprise. And I will say that he does gravitate towards things like if we're in Target and we're in the toy aisle, because of course he drags us there. He'll like point him out and be like, "Hey, that's a Marshall Hot Wheels collab. Like, I want that." He says it exactly like that.
New collab drops.
So when he's not doom scrolling on his phone or iPad, he's out, in the stores and looking for those toys. So as a parent, I would say, yeah, I think that it is still a thing. And, the childlike curiosity of children will definitely, toys are so important, right? I feel like the things that we tinker with as a kid shape who we are, or an aspect of who we are. So I think toys will never go out of style, or I hope they don't. I really hope they don't. And I think definitely for the younger generation, Gen Alpha and beyond that, I think he'll still remain relevant until we're, plugged into a pod or something.
You know what I kind of miss?
What?
Video game movie adaptations.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, Revenge of the Sith, all-time great movie adaptation. They had everything from like, there's a Ratatouille game, there's an Up game, like
Ratatouille
all of
game
these
is so
movies.
good, by
There's
the
a
way.
cat in the Hat video game on my
That makes
PlayStation
me
2.
want to throw it. Cat in the Hat is so scary to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
that
scary
movie
game too.
terrified I kind of miss those though. I mean, now, my taste has evolved where I'd probably rather just see the movie and experience it that way. But when I was a kid, like the Revenge of the Sith game and also Cars, if you guys ever played the Cars game, it was basically like
No.
a NASCAR
Yeah,
game,
it was
basically.
fun.
But it slapped. It was so cool.
Yeah. Oh my
and I
God.
feel like, that is sort of like an offshoot of creating toys,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah.
right?
No, that's a good point.
That interactive media experience.
One I want to bring up, the Lego franchise games.
Oh, classics.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that is nostalgia to a T. Like, put me in Mos Eisley. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Cantina.
The Cantina. Oh man, I can hear the music. I can hear the sound of collecting a mini kit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just love it. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And they're
I got
actually just
chills.
remaking the Lego Batman game.
And they're remaking.
So that comes out like this year.
And they're making Lego Lord of the Rings, which I've never been more hyped for.
Have they made those in the past?
Mhm.
Or would this be the first Lord of the Rings?
No, they've made that one before.
Okay.
Oh, well, I have not played it. I guess that's news to me. So,
block off a
shit.
weekend when that comes out.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm sick this week, all week, next week as well. One I wanted to talk about was packaging in general, and one call out that I had, and like packaging that doesn't change, over time. Like we see brand packaging changing with the times, and sometimes it makes it go out of style actually. But packaging that remains true to its former identity or original identity, like the cheese and crackers Lunchables. Have you guys ever been just walking through the aisles and like, oh, I remember pulling that out of my lunchbox.
Yeah, that was a big field
like-
trip meal for me.
Yeah, and especially if you're shopping hungry, I usually will grab one of them. I'm just like, maybe shed a little tear over it and then put it in my cart. But yeah, I think it's really commendable when brands really stay true to their identity and stick with that packaging all the way to the end.
I like that. One of the honorable mentions that did not make my list at the beginning of the episode was throwback Mountain Dew. I'm not
cool.
personally a Mountain Dew drinker, but if I were to drink Mountain Dew, I would drink the throwback just because I love that brand aesthetic
Yeah,
with like the
it's
little
cool.
Mountaineer man on there.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Or like the glass Coke bottles.
Yeah.
If you see a glass Coke, you're an advocate for this. I know you
Yeah,
are.
I love the glass.
Like if
bottle.
you see a glass Coke bottle anywhere, you buy it.
Makes it taste better.
It does, and it just like you're like, wow, I feel like I'm popping open a pop from the '90s.
That just uncovered a deep nostalgic memory for me. Like in high school, I grew up in a small town, and we had one grocery store in town, and they would always have glass bottles of Coke, Fanta, Pepsi, whatever. And I would get one probably like once a month and just keep it. That is not something that I did in my childhood per se. And a lot of these brandings were like from, the 70s, 80s, that like retro style. And I just loved the packaging and kept them.
Yeah.
Like for no reason. Like I just had some
I did
glass
that.
bottles just because I like to look at them.
I think I did that too, legit. I got one question for you guys. What is one reboot you'd like to see that maybe hasn't happened? And I can start. And this is a really big one, so bear with me. This is a hot take, but I think the flip phone should come back. I think that smartphones have gone too far. They're too smart. But imagine a flip phone like the old chocolate razor or whatever. Is that a flip or was that a slide? I think I had it, and I think it's a flip with a little scroll wheel. Super dope. But imagine a flip phone that was smart enough to get you from point A to point B, had like your Spotify or your music, but that's it. Like, it's so beautifully limiting in that aspect that it would actually bring back a whole revival of new sort of things. Like maybe it's more in-person events. Like people are actually like going out and hanging out and texting with T9. Like, do you remember texting with the T9 format? Oh
I
my
never
God.
got the strategy down. I was
Did you
pretty
not?
brutal. No.
Well, I think that would be amazing. And I think it would do wonders for the world.
I've got another tech related one. I think bringing back retro gaming systems. Now, I know there's emulators and whatnot, but my biggest gripe, and I am a PlayStation 5 user, is when you get a new game, you're so hyped, you want to just dive right into it. Boy, you're going to be waiting for an hour for that thing to download.
Yeah,
How nice was it when the systems were simplified to the point where you'd pop in the disc and you would be playing right away?
Disc gaming.
Disc gaming, but also just like not having to download everything. And also, this kind of dives into a deeper conversation, which maybe we can talk about it on a future episode, but like actually owning your media. Like if you have a disc version of a video game, you own that, right? You're not just like renting the storage space on your console. Like I've been obsessed with Arc Raiders for the last few months. I have put hours and hours into it, but I don't own it. I mean, I bought it and it's downloaded on my PlayStation, but like without that,
Can't hold it.
right, exactly. It's not tangible, and it also just like doesn't feel like it's my own. So my answer is, I guess, just like more retro style of gaming setup, but also just ownership of these things that we consume.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's a really good one. Mine, I think it's already being rebooted, but I am excited for it, even though it's kind of controversial. But I am really excited for the rebooted Harry Potter HBO TV show.
Ooh.
So I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my question is just why do you guys think young people, so kind of millennials and Gen Z, are flocking towards nostalgia so much?
Yeah.
Because
That is a big
I
question.
had some theories that I think it just has to do with, not like impending doom, but like just kind of how scary I think the future is. And maybe that's contributing to nostalgia.
100%.
Yeah, the first word that came to mind, and this is just a simple answer to that, is just comfort.
Comfort.
Right? It takes you back to good, warm memories. And also, I think there is something to the fact that a lot of things in culture have been overcorrected. And I think sometimes the simpler, more raw format when you consumed something was the better version. So I think comfort, simplicity, familiarity, those sort of buzzwords are what I think, and probably what drives my consumer behavior.
Yeah, it pulls on the heartstrings. It's like I saw this quote. It's that we don't actually miss the product necessarily. We miss who we were when we experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can extract a lot from that. And just with, the state of the world, where we're going, especially with the AI, running rampant on every social channel. And just everything's going go, go, go. It's so fast, I think that when you bring nostalgia back into things, it allows you to slow down. It kind of feels like a warm hug from an old friend. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that. And I think that is why we're gravitating, or the younger generation is gravitating toward that, because they kind of want that to happen, but maybe they don't have the power to do that, to, create an entire movement yet. But it's kind of cool to see it already playing out in the margins.
All right. Thanks for tuning into our conversation on nostalgia marketing. What makes you nostalgic? What are some of your favorite products, favorite memories, things that make you feel nostalgic and maybe drive your consumer behavior? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Water Cooler Podcast presented by Skol Marketing.